Why bother with the grinding and the bread bit, I says. Just get straight to the killing and the eating and the money. That and a dog on a stick. Crunchy and wiggly all at once.
That was read as if you had the literacy skills of an orc. So congratulations, round of applause for Lewis. They're really, really great stuff. How are you doing today, my friend? What is occurring?
I am unwell, I'm afraid.
Well, we always knew you were sick, but
Yeah.
How are you doing?
Poorly.
Good. Great. Glad we've established that. Anthony's here first. Good to see you, Anthony. Hope you're doing well. Same with Andrew. Hope you're all right. Just say you can't. And Andrew dropped in just to say second and then seems to have left. But yeah, if you've got a pair of eyes, or if you're not one of our audio listeners, you may notice I'm not wearing the 6++ shirt that I'm wearing, that I wear in all of the videos. And you might wonder why. And I'm here to spill the drama. The reason is it's in the wash. I'm doing an interview for someone else's channel tomorrow. So I was like, I should probably have a fresh shirt to put on. But yeah, that's the fired twice. So that would be, yeah. Truly one of the ways that my life could go. Ill with hype or just ill? No, I think he's just ill, Callum. I think he's just
I've unfortunately had the misfortune of being surrounded by 40k players all weekend at one of my events, so that happens to the best of us, I'm afraid.
Framing. You have put on and charged people and encouraged them to come to your venue that you have spent lots of time and effort setting up. You're like, oh God, it's unfortunate. All these bloody 40k players. Oh God. Oh.
Old world players wouldn't do this to me. I promise you, Ed.
Sure. Well, we definitely wouldn't give you chicken pox because we all got it 45 years ago. So sidebar, when I was at one of, was it last Sunday or the Sunday before, I did the one-day event at the TSN Arena. He was doing the Christmas. He just did 5 days where it was 12 players from Old World and AOS, half the tables each. Jobs are good. And when I was there were 2 players who were like 12 or something.
Yeah. And
one of them was, I think, Team Wales, like international caliber level. And just, I don't know if he was 12, but he was early teens, I would say.
He was 32, Ed.
Just shaved, having a clean face does a lot for how youthful you look. But yeah, no, it was funny because then when I have a look at my demographics, the largest categories are 30, I think does it go 33 to 44 or something? And then 45 to 55 or something. That's where most of the close order viewers are. And only 99.6% male viewers as well.
Wow.
We've got a strong 4% in the female demographic, according to YouTube. So hello, welcome. Make yourself at home, grab a tea. We've been rambling. Oh, Existence is here. Good to see you. Orc Boy Phil says third, despite not being third. I'm not sure that's how that works, Orc Boy Phil. But we're here to talk about some Warhammer. How's the wrong word? What event are we talking about?
So we will be talking about the Saffron Fantasy Slam 3 in February. I'm very excited for. This is our first 2-day event that we're putting on, our first grand tournament, if you will. It's going to be very grand, I promise you that.
I'm going to stop you there. You keep saying we. I can't claim any part in this. I do none of the legwork. I'm just here, and I'm going to show up and play at it, and it's going to be fantastic. But I don't want to take any credit for all the hard work you're putting in. So you are putting on an event as endorsed by both of us.
Yes, you have been enabling me, Ed. That's how I describe it.
Yeah, but
you're starting a new game, are you? Yes, I am. You're going to run a whole new set of events. Yes, I am.
Yeah, but you're successful anyway. I think you'd have done fine without me. I mean,
no, it'll be fine. It's all good. It's all going to be good. Yes. No, looking forward to it. It's going to be a really, really, really good fun weekend, I think. Learned a lot from the first 2 events that we put on. We just did single day events, 3 game days, which were really, really good fun. And allowed us to, or allowed me, I guess, given you don't want to be any part of this, you want to accept no responsibility.
No. I'm making sure that I don't claim your glory. That's all I'm doing.
So much glory over here. I'm just full of glory today. It gave us an opportunity, just running some smaller single day events, just gave us an opportunity to test out event pack, test out rules, test out whether there was a big enough community to even support that in this part of England. And it turns out there is. We seem to be already from the ticket sales for February, which is basically half sold already. We've got people coming from a little bit wider a net as well. We have fellows from Nottingham and parts of this mysterious place we like to call London that I've never heard of coming over as well. So
I think we've got him in chat. Landon's here for his first live podcast, I believe. Congratulations. Was listening to episode 2 of the podcast when he got notification for the stream. Anyway, sorry, go back to telling us about how you'd found players for your events.
Yes. So yes, we're just expanding out now, I think. So I think going up to 2 days, we've spoke about it, I think, on a previous episode about why, from a TO's perspective, 2 days are just a little bit better to run, just from kind of the setup and tear down time, and the fact that if you can fill a hall for 2 days, it's just works out a little bit more efficient from a TO's perspective. So I think it felt after two sold out RTTs, I think we're ready to jump up to the bigger size, and we'll see how we go. But yeah, we're looking forward to it, Ed. Really looking forward to it.
Excellent stuff. All right. Who else we got? Winslow's turned up. Jordan as well. Good to see you both. Winslow says, in terms of me taking credit for your events, much like a chef and a man shoveling potatoes down his gob, have both participated in the cooking. Yeah. I have participated in none of the cooking. This is the one that I'm using my free event ticket on, isn't it? I believe. Yeah. When did I win that?
You won that from a 40k event.
Was that 18 months ago?
18 months ago.
Yeah. I completely forgotten about it up until I remembered. And I was like, oh, hell yeah, this is great. I should sort logistics with you. I'm not going to ask you. In fact, I will ask you on it. Can I crash at your place again?
Yes, I will allow it, Ed. You're allowed.
Fantastic. Got some incredible hospitality when I went down for the 1 day. So just going to milk that one again with appreciation. Fantastic. We've got... Callum says, how annoying is buying a ticket for your event because Warhammer World might beat you there? It's not annoying at all. In fact, if you go to saffronslam.com, I believe that's the website, or is it Elmo Miniatures still?
Elmo Miniatures, or you can just Google Saffron Slam. It will come up.
Or I'm going to edit it into the description right now. So if you do want to pick up a ticket, I would recommend doing it sooner rather than later, because if I put it in chat now, they might go a little bit quickly. That's the Best Coast Pairings link. That's not how you buy tickets. Why does tickets reroute to Best Coast Pairing?
Because that's where you actually buy a ticket from.
Is it really?
On my website, yeah. Because what that does, rather conveniently, is it, as much as they obviously take a cut, but it does mean that when you buy your ticket, you're immediately registered onto the app as well. So I don't have to go through like a pre-event registration process. You can, as soon as you buy a ticket, you're just immediately on the app.
Amazing. So, are you willing to say how much of a cut they take, just for my curiosity? Or you can tell me later if not.
How much is it? They probably take... I don't know the percentage I don't want to say a percentage off the top of my head because I don't know it. They take enough that it's noticeable, but not so much that it's annoying.
A convenience fee for you, basically.
Yeah, I know we've seen that with the... Rob's seen it with the TSN events, haven't I? I've seen it on the WhatsApp chat where just random people sign up to the BCP link as soon as it becomes live, who haven't actually bought tickets. And obviously this kind of process just sorts all that out without me having to either do it manually myself from my end or have random...
I don't know how that can even be possible, because the event, they only go live about a week before the event goes up.
Someone's sneaking in.
Yeah. While there's a gap in the conversation, we've got Aaron... I'm not going to try and pronounce his surname. I'll get it wrong. Apologies. In Poland, we've got this crazy competitive scene. It's crazy with 40k, always top 5. But now I can see it's getting with the old world guys treated like it's chess. Yeah, I'm always super impressed by the Polish 40k scene. If you guys are unaware, they are usually, along with Australia, the most what's the word I'm looking for? Innovative. They come up with all the ideas. Australia's usually a little bit more of a wild card. Poland's just like first to the game and they're right, like every time. They're also really lovely. Contact Lost used to say really nice things about the podcast that I used to be on, the 40K podcast, the 6+++ show, even though they couldn't tell the difference between me and Tom. And they said nice things about both of us using the wrong names, which is endlessly funny to me. But I couldn't tell you what either of their names are, so I can't really judge. But then again, I can't say that I watched their podcast. Didn't consume a lot of 40K content at the time. Callum says, I think you should switch to a website that logs you off bang on ticket release time. That sounds like Best Coast Pairings to me. I don't know about you.
I think, do you know what? I'd love to be in a position where there was like hype around the release time of the tickets. I normally just put them up kind of randomly and drip feed sales until I decide that we should probably do some promotion for it, and then they start selling. So the trick is getting early because I have no particular schedule.
Yeah, Existence says Jokeran. I think it's Tomas, or that might be his real name. I'm not sure what his gamer handle is, or maybe Tomek.
Pumba, is that one of them?
Oh, maybe. I don't know if. Anyway. Let's go back to Old World. We're getting in the weeds of competitive Polish 40K, which is something that interests me, but is probably not super interesting to most of our viewers.
But it is interesting getting into Old World because it'll be interesting what they do with it.
Yes, I am very, very curious, and I hope that if you are Polish and good at the game, you know, I mean, if you've been playing 40K competitively, for example, shoot me a message. We'll play some Warhol. You know, I'd love to see what you're bringing to the table. They're the top guys doing great coverage of WTC. That is absolutely true. Making a good name for themselves. I think they came over to the UK and did LGT one year. I feel like that was... It's been War Games Live for the last 2 years. That guy's a machine. He just travels around the US in a camper van, I think.
Oh, really?
I think he just permanently travels. I don't know if he has a fixed address or if he's just...
40K nomad.
If you wanna do coverage, I think that's the way you've got to do it. You've got to fully commit, sell the house, buy a van, and live on the road. That's the job. All right,
you're doing it in the United States as well, because obviously here in the UK, quite easy to get from place to place quite quickly. But yeah, if you're going to drive 25 hours to get somewhere, then you might as well not bother with a house at some point.
True. All right, here is the pack. 22nd to the 23rd of February. Event link is in the description, so I wouldn't be surprised if the tickets sell out by the end of the episode. If you do want them, go for it. If not, if you want it and you're not watching it live, then click on the link. There might be still some left. Do you want to walk us through why we're having a look at this first?
Yes. Well, I said I was going to take the mickey out of you for this, Ed, and I'm going to do it now to get it out of the way. But this, Ed... You may not be familiar with it based on your video, but this, Edward, is an event
I forgot about this.
This is something, if one wanted to do a video of how to get new players going into events or participating in tournaments, one might suggest a key part of getting new players into tournaments is encouraging them to read the event pack so they understand all the whys and wherefores about where the event is, how to get there, what transport's like, where the hotels are, what the food is like. And just Ed, remind me, I can't remember how many mentions of the event pack was in your how to get into Old World tournaments video.
Here's the thing: you're objectively correct. I should have put it in the video. You know why I didn't, and you know why it slipped my mind? Because I never fucking look at them. Occasionally, someone will be like, "Oh, have you seen this event? They're running a really weird." I'm like, "All right, I'll open it. I'll go straight to the missions." And I'll be like, "Okay, tell me what's weird about this." I don't have the mental energy to read through a 40-page document that someone's put together because they're like, "I want to do 76 things differently." Like, just tell me what's different, and I'll. But yes, you should read the event pack. I do. To be fair, I do open them. Oh, you know what? When I don't open them. When the tournament organizer has put the location on their website, because that's the main thing I need it for. Just genuinely copy paste the address, whack it into Airbnb. Like, all right, Sam, this is where I'm staying now.
Yes, Matthew Sinclair makes a good point as well. I have 2 venues in Saffron Walden that I use for my
that's
event.
true.
And it does help, Matthew, when you read the event pack, which tells you which of the venues you should be attending for that particular event rather than turning up late.
Ginger Steve says, reading the event pack is for other people. Making sure you have the TO's phone number and name is for me. Then just summon him every time you get locked in the toilet. If you're talking about Mikey's events, I think given that you were also funding those partially, I think that's allowed. I think you've got special privileges when you contribute on that level. Existence says, we know how bad Ed is at shilling for himself. Yes, you should all leave a comment, do all of those things. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Loads of people did turn up from the predictions video that I put up on Sunday, I think it was. That went over well, which was nice. I've got a follow-up coming next Sunday. Not quite the same, but should do well as well. I'll have something up on Thursday as well. Then maybe be a little bit less exciting. But we are here to talk about the event pack. And if I keep looking at chat, I'm going to get distracted. So let's... Existence says, there we go. Yeah, thank you, Existence. I do appreciate all of you, the day ones, the OGs who remind me how to do my job. That sounds sarcastic. It's not at all. Tell us about the pack.
It's needed. Right, here we go. Ladies and gents, let's do it. Yes, Saffron Fantasy Slam. Here we go. Whoa, that went quick. Hang on. Mouse was oversensitive for a moment there. We have a table of contents, ladies and gents. This is cutting edge, exciting stuff. Tells you what page everything is on. Matthew, I wasn't late. I read the pack with a whole 12 hours to spare. So here we go. We've got our little itinerary and logistics here. So I start a little bit earlier than some other events. What I've tended to find, and please chat, correct me if I'm wrong, is tend to get a lot of parents, fathers attending my events who like to get home relatively early, either on the Saturday night or on the Sunday, to put kids to bed, get involved with their share of the parenting, etc. So try and start a little bit earlier in the morning when I know dads are already up early with kids, so that they can get back in the evenings at reasonable time. And it also means those of us who are potentially not parents and going out for the evening and going for a meal, that sort of thing, we can get a meal at a reasonable time. There's been a discussion in the 6++ chats over the last couple of weeks where people have been concerned about some of the bigger events not finishing till sort of 8:30 at night, which makes it quite difficult to go for food or get anything that's not TGI Fridays by the sounds of it. So trying a new sort of system where we start a little bit earlier. Landon Paint's big fan of early starts, good man. I'm an early riser myself, so I'm normally up and sitting around waiting for everybody to turn up anyway. And I was finding as well, if I was putting events starting at 9:30, 10ish, people were turning up at 8:30 anyway. Just that's why I've done that. I'll be interested to see what people think at the event itself. I've run it for the 40k event last weekend. Was able to book a table at a restaurant at 7:00 for the people that wanted to come along. So that was actually quite convenient because it got even the people that went out for a meal were home by sort of 10, 11 o'clock. So
is this earlier than normal then? Is this earlier than you used to do it?
Yes, I used to start. Well, I first started starting at 10 o'clock in the morning. Okay. Which basically ends up in a finishing time of sort of 7:30, 7:45, something like that, which isn't too bad. And as I say, people were showing up at 8:30, 8:45 anyway. So Gwildar, it's a very good point about there being a pre-event run. Unfortunately, we're starting this early, starting at 9 effectively, or 9:15. It does limit the opportunities for pre-event runs. So yeah, that is a challenge, but I think it's one of these things where if you start early, you're going to cut some people out, or you start late, you're going to allow. It's just all a bit different, I suppose, isn't it? But we can see how we go with the next few events based on this time set. See what people think. People very much seem to like the 15:30 finish on the Sunday as well, because it means
that is cool.
Even if you are traveling, you're home in plenty of time to get back to work on Monday without having to take time off.
Yes. So. As someone who does have to travel back from basically London, I know it's not London, but I'm from the north, so anywhere in that vicinity is just London. Because I've got to get back from London, it's a bit of a logistical not problem, but it's just nice to not finish late on the Sunday. Yeah, gives you a lot of wriggle room.
Definitely. There's all sorts of information on this page as well about where to go for eat and what hotels and things like that.
Where to go for eat?
Where to go to eat food and drink. The best way to read an event pack is to ignore everything about the venue, times, sportsmanship, dress code, and go straight to missions to see if there's a risk of playing meeting engagement out of the book.
That is a great point. Have you got meeting engagement in here?
I have got I have got one out of the book mission. All the other missions are out of the book with a bit of a twist on them to make them, in my opinion, better. But we'll see. These were some missions that we have partially tried in the last RTTs. The first RTT I did, we just did missions out of the book, which people were a bit like a bit samey. And last time tried some custom ones, which people really liked. I've taken on some feedback on those and mixed those up. And obviously we've now going to 5 games, so I've added some new ones in as well. So we'll see how people go on those. I've got some games planned over the next couple of weeks at the local club where I'm going to test them out. So I've still got a little bit of time to tweak those and alter them if there's any
glaring problems.
Yeah, any particular deployment zones or victory conditions or things that don't match. I'm not massively changing them from the core book, but I think a couple of them just seem a bit swingy. In particular, say that one where on a 1 there's a unit that might not turn up. I just don't know that makes very good.
That shouldn't be.
So yeah, just got rid of that completely.
I like that mission just without rolling for them. I just need to defend myself. Orcboy Phil says Nottingham's not from the north. Now this is going to maybe shock you, Phil. I'm not from Nottingham. I've just lived here for the last 10 years. It's pretty all right. I like Nottingham. It's well situated. I get to go to the second most relevant old world content creators events. It's a complete lie. He's doing far better than I have any dreams of doing anytime soon. But I get to go to Rob's events. They're on the right side of town to me as well. So it's like 12 minutes for me to get there. Walk to the end of the road takes me about 7 minutes. Use one of the renter bikes. It's 5 or 6 minutes maybe to get to the venue. Incredible stuff. No complaints there. Anyway, sorry. Back to Warhammer.
You've literally just highlighted the comment. Solar Warden Down Under. They start most events at 8:30. That's even earlier than I've put it. So I guess interesting. So yeah, I've changed around some things, and we'll see how they play out. And this on the page at the moment is the list building restrictions. I've kept it basically by the book. The only thing I've taken out is allies, not because I've got anything particular against allies, but I think
and no one's playing them, right?
No one's playing them. There's probably some horrible combinations in there, which I'm sure. Kudos to you if you find them and you find an amazing broken thing that beats the game. Great, but that's not really what I want to.
Kind of feel like the obvious one is just bring an Empire detachment with your dwarves and have a dwarf gun line with casters.
Yeah,
that's like here's the immediate thing that you can put together.
Yeah, but, and then I've just got the same rule of 3 that the most other events going for. So if it's not a core unit, rule of 3, and then core units limited up to 6. So that seems to be quite standard across the whole tournament industry at the moment. So
that's my favorite variation because it means that Lizardmen still get to play the game. If you go pure rule of 3, then people are like, oh, I guess I take unit of 20 skinks and just like everyone has a bad time because it's a logistical nightmare to move them around and everything takes forever.
Yeah, and I think fundamentally I'm not really interested in ripping up too many trees when it comes to list building at the moment. I think the Saffron events have got enough of a reputation that people know they can bring strong lists if that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
But with strong list comes strong responsibility to make sure your opponent is still having a good game.
All right, Uncle Ben. So I think what happens now is I have to disregard you, take Wood Elves to one of your events, wait for you to be murdered, feel really bad about it, and then become the local neighborhood Spider-Man. That's what I'm taking away from what you're saying.
Bitten by a spider or bitten by one of the residents of Saffron Walden.
I have a surprising amount of spider webs just in the corners of my room. I used to get rid of them, and then I thought, actually, these don't bother me at all. And I haven't noticed any issues with flies in summer over the last couple of years. So
no. Definitely, and it's not like we have Australian spiders that are going to like eat our children or anything. So we can.
So I mean, I'm not an expert, and obviously there is a decent viewer base from Australia, but I believe the Huntsman, which is the big fuck off size of your dinner plate, is not only more scared of you than you are of it, but also non-venomous and relatively cuddly.
It doesn't need to be venomous when it could take your arm off in one bite.
Yeah, but it couldn't. Have you right? If the body's that big, the mouth's like that big.
Slightly.
when a bug doesn't have teeth filled with poison, it gets a lot less scary. That's for sure. It would skill sets, scare the shit out of me. I'm not gonna front. Like a spider that big would do something to me. I would not be comfortable. Solar Warden says large and scared of you. Yeah.
You don't panic. You get it in a corner, it starts panicking, lashing out. No, thank you.
No, I think they probably can't really cause much harm. They're just a bit, terrifying. I've also heard that they gallop like horses, which I need to, after this, actually, need to remember to go and watch huntsman videos. Not people hunting, videos of the spiders. That would be where I need to go.
I think when a spider's big enough that it makes a noise as it runs across the carpet, I'm not interested in it being my house.
You know what? I agree. But for those of you with a stronger stomach, a huntsman is apparently not a big problem. Especially when they call out of your aircon duct when driving. Well, that is a little bit terrifying. I'll give you that one. Why haven't you got, how the Americans have sink, what do they call them? Trash disposals. It's like got loads of fucking spinning metal blades, and just you put stuff down your sink, and for some reason it's also a bin, which is, I'm not going to lie, pretty fucking genius. I'm a little bit envious of that. I can't. So you just need that for your aircon, basically, is what I'm saying. Yeah. Of course, then you turn it on and just get bits of spider blowing at you. Yeah, because I assume you always have the aircon on, because haha,
you need to on full blast. You get
they do get seasons there. They
spider juice.
Yeah. Anyway, God, you were like before, and you're like, I'm ill. I want this to be a fast one. We've got so sidetracked already. I think they're the more fun ones to listen to anyway. You'll lose a finger, intrusive thoughts. Yeah, absolutely. There's a Waterstones in Nottingham. Catherine, my partner, loves books. I don't read as much as I used to. I read mostly online stuff as opposed to physical media, but we go in there pretty often just for a browse. And every time we're coming down the stairs, because you can get the escalator up, but you have to walk downstairs to get down. Every time I'm looking over, I'm like, I'd break my neck. You just got that feeling like you're going to jump.
But I could just step out in front of this bus.
Yeah. Now, if Games Workshop, for whatever reason, wants to get rid of me, I'm talking about them as if they're Russia or China. They just have to set it up so it looks like I jumped in Waterstones. Anyway, back on topic. We're going to talk about your event pack, and I'm not going to get sidetracked again for at least 5 minutes.
What else is going on? So the next decision, I don't think you're going to agree with, Ed, I'm afraid. But what I did do, what I have done after each...
what you see is what you get. God!
I know. Would you believe
No,
it?
I do agree with that.
No, I've been asking for feedback after every event from all of the attendees. I said that if you can email me stuff, if you can text me, whatever, just tell me things that you want to improve. And one thing I said at the end of the previous event is that next event, because it'd be a GT, we would be expecting people to have armies battle ready. That did prompt quite a number of emails coming back saying they understood why that was going to be the decision, but they were still struggling. Again, lots of people with kids that are finding it very difficult to get their armies painted on time. So I've gone another stage further forward than what we did at the RTT. It's now all got to be built. It's all got to be based, and it's all got to at least have undercoat color on it. So no grey plastic, but not battle ready. So I think next event after February is booked for May time. So we'll see again if I get a lot of feedback saying that they're still struggling at that point. We might just have to accept there's going to be some people that can't make it. But I'm trying to open it up to as many people as possible, especially new people, to come into the hobby and to come into the event. So that's the decision I've made for this time around. But I know, Ed, you were very much in favour of getting things fully painted, basically ASAP, really.
Yeah, so coming from a perspective of it's been a year. I do feel like people probably should have their army painted. However, you're moving in a direction of going towards fully painted armies. Yeah, it's what it is. I'm not going to throw my rattle out the pram. If I was running the event myself, I'd just put a paint requirement on. But, fair play. It's Christmas as well. A fair whack of people are getting into the game now because they were kind of waiting to see if it would die. But, I bet loads of people got stuff at Christmas. There's going to be a painted army. I might even bring an unpainted army just like a base coated army, if I decide like on the week of that I was like, actually no, I'm going to play something else. So that's the problem. It gives me flexibility, and I don't want flexibility. I want to just have to paint an army for an event.
Exactly.
But there is a world where I just go, I could just base coat all of this very quickly, and then I've got a whole new army, a whole new world to play with.
No, definitely. I know for me personally, I sometimes need a deadline to encourage me to get armies done.
Yeah.
And obviously, if I was going to an event where it didn't matter, then I probably wouldn't get my army done. But I know not everyone operates like that, so it's trying to cater to the most people as possible. Obviously, clearly, if your army's not painted, it's not finished, it's not going to be eligible for any of the best army awards or anything like that. So there's a section of the event that you're going to miss out on, but fundamentally, you'll still be able to turn out and play 5, hopefully, really good games of Old World. So we'll see. I think we'll keep moving forwards and take it from there. Oh, that's interesting. From more Robot Wars content in Scotland, we give everyone with a painted army a free win worth of points.
Yeah, like that would work in coming from the 40k mindset where you've got 100 points, but you can only score 90 in the game, and 10 points are having your army battle ready, built, painted, and all that stuff. I wouldn't be opposed to that. Maybe not for this, because you've already told people, and honestly, it's only a month and a half away. While that seems like a ludicrous amount of time for me to get an army ready, if we're talking people who've got like 3 hours of painting a week because, family commitments or other, if they've sort of rationed out the time already, that might put people off. But maybe that's the adaptation you go to for the next one, where you go, look, everyone who is painted starts at 20 points or whatever it is, or 10 points. And you can come with an unpainted army as long as it's fully built and base coated, but you will be missing out on these points. That's maybe a good middle ground.
Yeah, definitely. You could basically give a painted army 150 points for the battle. Basically, it means any draws fall in their favour.
Yeah.
Any 10-10s become 11-9s in their favour, and they'll just push up the brackets ever so slightly over the course of the event, which I think, it's an interesting way of doing it. I hadn't considered that. You've dropped the comment back down again, but that Alex from Germany saying that...
I was just about to get to that.
Lots of players in Germany didn't take up Old World because they thought it was going to be a bit of a flash in a pan, but they're starting to wake up now, and he's hoping there's going to be a bit more of a scene in Germany building, which is really exciting news. I hope that's successful. But that kind of highlights exactly what you thought, Ed, that actually people potentially were waiting a little bit of time before getting involved in case it died a death. But it doesn't appear to have done that. Well, from my local scene here in East England, it seems to be thriving. So hopefully long may that continue.
But you do also run a club, right? So that helps.
Yes, but obviously there's a lot of...
Because that's what people need to do. If they want success, they need to just be like, oh, nobody's playing in my area. What if I start a club?
Definitely. And obviously, especially if you start it as a general Warhammer club or general wargaming club, or even just gaming club, obviously 40k tends to dominate club nights. We have basically 6 tables worth in the pub that we go to, and you normally get 1 or 2 kill team, 3 40k and 1 Old World each club night. So 40k is definitely in the ascendancy, but there's 25% of the people that are sitting there with Old World. So and Matthew, really good point. Some people are waiting for particular armies to get started. So lots of Empire fans out there, given how quickly that sold out.
If High Elves release on the 15th of February, that means that I could bring them to your event. All I'd have to do is build them all and give them all a base coat. Yeah. That's exciting. I do like me some High Elves.
For sure.
Yes. Also, just quickly, Anthony said, would there be any tournaments in the Southeast Asia region? I'm not sure. Old World Rankings hasn't got SEA as a region on yet. They've got Australia and New Zealand, but they haven't got a specific SEA bracket. So I'd recommend having a look at local Facebook groups for tournament setup or just a new recruit, best coast pairings, anything like that. There, Dave said he was waiting for Empire as well. Yeah, I really like the concept of doing Empire. I just don't think I'm going to. I don't know why. It just hasn't gone over the line for me.
Yeah, I've still got state troop lists spinning around my head at the moment, but they are really bad, and I'm finishing off my undead Bretonians, so get them done first, and then we'll see where we go with the state troops. Hopefully they'll be back in stock by then. So base coating is fine, except for people who run a YouTube channel.
Entropy, you're meant to be on my side. That's not all right. And Winslow, I have no idea what you're talking about. Right, yes. moving further on.
Grand, yes. I have.
Oh, sorry, you've gone past it. We did have a question about the what you see is what you get from Jordan. Just to answer this one, I'm assuming this is for actual units, like magic items don't get included in what you see is what you get.
Yes, I think that probably makes sense. Because for the exact reason that the wizarding hat would look a bit silly on certain types of models. You got that on a chaos sorcerer.
The exception is
like
if you take the Ed button hat, which is an extremely common magical item for orcs, which gives you an impact hit. If you take 1, you don't have to model it. If you take 6, you have to have 6 hats stacked on top of each other legally. Count says, I never played normal humans in fantasy stuff, and I'm suspicious of anyone who does. That's a you thing. That's we're all normal. You're the one who's weird. Moving
I
on.
think it's one of these things where I say that any magical items, that sort of stuff, needs to be very, very clearly listed in your army list so that your opponent can see that in front of them. They're looking at BCP. They can see what unit has what upgrade. And I think if you're in a situation where you've got, say, 2 basically identical characters in terms of their models, but they're equipped ever so slightly differently, going somewhere to differentiate the 2 so that your opponent can clearly see which one has the very defensive item or which one has the very killy item, I think would go a long way to making your experience as playing the game and your opponent's experience a lot easier to follow. There's nothing worse than
to be clear, can be just painting the base rooms a different color.
Oh yeah, 100%.
It doesn't have to be on the model. It's just like if you've done something to make it visible. People use little colored elastic bands for like keeping squads together in 40k. You could just put like a red elastic band on one of the lords on Wyvern if you went for 2 and you were like, oh, well, they only sell this one model, so I've got this. And be like, the one with the red band is the one with this item. Super clear for everyone.
Oh, definitely. And then I think as well, if you are looking at kind of trying to take your hobby game, your modeling game up to the next level, modeling the ogre blade or some particular weapon or item that you've got that looks particularly amazing, or you've gone to extra effort, that sort of thing. That's the sort of thing that gets picked up when we start thinking about best armies, and actually it also bleeds over into favorite opponent votes and things like that. I know in our previous in the previous event there were players with some really amazing converted models, and actually you spend 10 minutes at the start of the game chatting about all their amazing conversions and all the stuff they've done to model their magic items, and actually you've already built a relationship with your opponent there, and you end up in having a much better game. So whilst you can get away with just changing colours and making it completely clear, that's the kind of expected minimum. Always encourage people to show a bit of hobby flair and push on if they can.
The issue with that one is it's super easy to put that together and then change your list and then not use the item. And then you've just got someone with a big sword, which is fine. But if you're doing it specifically for magic items, it's a bit sad.
100%. Yeah, and I guess it depends what you're trying to get out of your hobby as well. If you're trying to min-max your army, change things up and get to a point where it's as efficient as it can be, then yes, you will be changing all the time. But if you just like the cool big sword, then you probably just model the big cool sword and go for that.
All right.
So yes, I do remind everyone to bring dice tape measure. You would not believe every single event there's always at least 1 or 2 people that don't have a tape measure or don't bring dice.
Do you sell them?
I sell Saffron Slam dice. Yes, got Saffron Slam symbol on the 6.
You should get tape measures as well. That'd be
branded
a thing to
yeah, be interesting. Say no, I don't have a spare one, but you can buy one.
I assume they'd be fairly cheap to produce as well, so it's not like it's a what do you call them, impulse purchase as opposed to anything. Anyway, I said we weren't going to get sidetracked for 5 minutes. Here we are, 10 minutes later. Haven't moved any further in the pack.
Yes, I guess for all the missions, one last thing. The terrain rules. So I won't click on the link because it will take us off the page, but as in line with the 40k events, I have played around with the terrain rules slightly, just to encourage interaction with terrain where possible. So the old world terrain rules are actually already quite good, so I didn't need to make major changes. If anyone that's played 40k, you'll know the terrain rules are shit.
What do you mean? It very clearly states what a L-shaped ruin does.
Yeah. Whereas with Old World, you've already got a lot of flexibility there. So I've just got things included, and none of them are massively game changing. I think I've just got situations where we've got buildings you can garrison on the boards and things like that, which some players like to put archers in, things like that. So just little things like that where you can play around a little bit with the terrain. So it means a little bit more in the games. And then yeah, just got our standard victory point difference stuff as you see at every event.
Yeah, on the garrison, I did have someone directly message me a question. I said, I don't know, I'll ask Lewis. So, look at the pack, so that the boards have lots of garrisonable buildings. I don't actually know how that works. The rules in that book seem only partly written. Do you know how he plays them? The main thing I can't figure out is who can fight. Like, if you charge a unit inside the building, who's in base contact, who's making supporting attacks, and if you get rank bonuses.
You'll have to message me that one, because I don't know off the top of my head. I can look it up, but that's not going to make a very exciting podcast.
Sure.
I thought it was relatively clear in the rulebook, but if it's not, then that's something that we can change, and I can make sure it gets up onto the website. But yeah, they're on probably 50% of the boards have got some kind of little building on there that can be garrisoned, and it's been quite good as well for armies that have some infantry they want to try and protect, things like that, which has always been good, just give a little bit more variation, a little bit more changes. Some people get to the board when they agree with their opponent, they don't want to use the garrison rules, and again, that's absolutely fine. I've got no issue. Take whatever rules you like out of the pack and use them beyond the actual kind of base understanding of the games themselves. So yeah, and I think it's the sort of thing. Matthew makes a good point. It's a risk of a bad experience if someone isn't prepared, and it depends on bringing very specific units. If I start to get this sort of inclination that people are trying to game the mission pack and game the fact that there are some garrison buildings on some of the boards, then it's probably something that just comes out and they just go back to being impassable blocks. But
Excellent. I can fix the terrain pack for you all.
Yeah. But I haven't yet seen people approach things with that kind of level of approach. And actually, because you might find that the garrison building, they're on half the boards, but they might not be on your side of the board. So I don't know if it's necessarily something you could build for. So for sure. But
Sure.
it's all these things we just keep an eye on, keep under review as the events progress, really, and always up for feedback and making things better. So
because there are 5, I believe, next year. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we've got 4 GTs and a teams tournament.
Hell yeah.
Teams tournament in November, since the last one of the year will be the teams tournament, which I'm very much looking forward to, because anyone that's played 40k will know that teams 40k is the most fun way of playing the game. So I'm going to assume the same logic applies to the old world. So yeah, looking forward to it. It's going to be the same size as the GT, so still 28 players, so or 24 players, 6 by 4 teams. So what they'll actually
God damn it. Old world, like, across the board gets this wrong. Every fucking team event is 4 players. It should be 5. It needs to be 5. That's how teams works.
Well, it should be 5, but for me to get enough space for 5-player teams, I need to effectively triple the size of the event, which I'm not quite sure there's the community for it yet.
Yeah.
I think as we sort of get into the summer, if everyone in the world wants to come to this teams tournament, 100%, I'll make it bigger. We'll go up to 50 players. We'll have it as a massive big event, the same as I do for the 40k ones.
Yeah.
But I'm not 100% sure the community's just quite there yet. And actually, interestingly, what 6 by 4 player teams means is that every team plays every other team. So it's effectively just a little round robin of teams. So that's an interesting dynamic I've not explored as part of an event before. Everyone has to play everyone.
So Y5, it just makes it more interesting. It's harder to bring all of the best lists. So it's very easy to come up with, like, there's probably 3 lists that everyone would want to take, but then the 4th one is a little bit more up in the weeds, and the 5th one is the same, so you get more variety. Also, it just makes the scoring a little bit cleaner. It's harder to draw out because you've got 5 players. So unless you get, if you get 2 wins, 2 losses, that can push you towards a draw. It's hard to have 2 wins, 2 losses when there's 5 people. Obviously, you can have draws in there, but it just adds that little bit of variability there.
Definitely.
Yeah,
I mean, ultimately, you want to try and go, obviously, a WTC for 40k at least have 8-player teams, and the that allows you to bring a big variation in factions, and it means that you are forced to take factions which people might not be considered to be as good as others, and it forces you to incorporate ways of making those factions work, which obviously then bleeds into singles play and other play as best players in the world find out lists that work for those particular factions.
Yeah, Phil's talking about long edge versus short edge deployment. Don't worry, there is plenty of table space. There's loads of room around each table. They're all on individual tables, aren't they? The actual.
Oh yes, yeah. So always have. I mean, I could. So what I could do, and this is always the debate that events have.
Yeah.
I could probably get 10 more people in that event, and £60 a ticket, £600 for a weekend, by making all the tables touch each other and have lines of tables. I don't like doing that. I like people being able to walk all the way around their tables and get access to every angle and all the way around. So
what if you added 6 more tables? How does that feel logistically?
Basically, no. Effectively, I can potentially push to 30 players, but then the hall does start getting a bit cramped. So it's basically, I think with 28 is where I can go without jumping up to a bigger hall. And then we'll see how we go after that. But I think realistically, if we want, and I want to create an event that has lots of space and people don't feel crushed in, because those, not necessarily in Old World, but those events are well catered for elsewhere. Those kind of massive style, you feel like you're in a kind of a game factory rather than an event. So that's where I'm trying to go with it. So the diagonal ones, I wouldn't be too concerned about not having enough space on these for sure. So I did get some feedback on the missions from players. People really enjoyed the diagonal deployment zones. I think actually from a cinematic perspective, when you're taking photos of armies, just having them slightly at the angle, it just looks really, really cool. So people really liked that. They liked obviously the fact that I had mixed up the deployment zones. They're not all just straight lines. So that was well received. They did actually flag as well. What you see on the picture at the moment is where the diagonal line reaches this top here. In the previous pack, that line reached all the way to the corner. And what that basically meant is that infantry blocks basically couldn't deploy in that top corner and that bottom right corner.
I was wondering why you'd done that, but that makes sense.
I just pushed it out slightly. Obviously, it narrows the gap ever so slightly between the two deployment zones, but it doesn't seem to. This is the first one I'm going to test on Thursday just to see what this deployment zone looks like.
Well, you could just go 3 inches in and then 29 across, and I think that gives you like a straight on a 72-inch board.
We're on 60s.
I feel about that. All right, 27. Then you've still got the same gap.
Yes. So it's just playing around that angle really. So I'm going to measure out the 30 and the 3-inch angle and see what happens with that, and see how we go really. But I thought that was a really interesting bit of feedback, and actually I'm hoping that will be a good quality of life improvement for people and their armies. So that would be cool. And then actually below the deployment map, I've actually written out the special rules in full. What again I had previously is where I was referencing rules in the rule book. What I did the one thing I absolutely hate about the Old World rule book, which is random page number references that you have to flick through.
Please,
in my event pack in the RTT.
Cross-reference, yeah, that's fair. Yeah,
and someone flagged it to me, and I was like, I hate myself. Why have I done this? It's just the thing I hate. I get to, especially if someone asks you a rules question at an event, get to the page, and it references another page, and you have to fly through it. So what I've done is written all the rules out. And what that has allowed me to do is to tweak them ever so slightly. So I've changed the names for copyright purposes. I don't know if Games Workshop would be funny with people stealing their rules word for word. So this one is Breakpoint, basically. But I've simplified the explanation of how you work out the unit strength. There were so many people saying that if they drop below 75%, that's when they broke. It's actually below 25%. So I've tried to clear that up a little bit and made that clear. So that's going to be the first mission of the event. Oh, what also people wanted to see is actually at the top is have the timing for each round that particular mission applies to. So you can see at the top here, 9:15 to 12 o'clock. So effectively what someone could do is they could print 6 pages from the event pack, literally just print the missions, and they just, for game 1, they get the first mission out, put it on the table next to them, and they've got all the rules they need, they've got the map they need, got all the timings they need, all there on one page, ready to go. Jordan G makes a good point. This is based on Crucible of Battle deployment zone for 40k. So again, what I find at 40k again is if you make all the maps diagonal rather than straight on, your terrain has more impact because you've got slightly less kind of a wide frontage to deal with. So terrain is a little bit more impactful, and from a kind of just the aesthetic looking at the game, it just looks a lot cooler when things are a bit more diagonal. I don't know why that is. Just in people's brains, it just looks more awesome. So that's what we go for. So that's mission 1, The Doom of Duke Saffron III. Again, definitely stealing mission names from Games Workshop's set, but changing them slightly. Legally distinct. Here we go. The Walden Encounter, game 2. So this is based on the mission where one of the narrative missions in the pack, where you start very close together. So in this case, you're starting just over 12 inches away from your opponent, but you have in this one you have in a narrative mission, you kind of like randomly deploy units all across the board, which would just be weird from a tournament perspective. So I've combined it with the meeting engagement deployment zone, but used the surprise encounter rules from the narrative session. So you start very close together, but you have a penalty if you want to, or a potential risk of if you want to declare a charge in the first turn, you've got to pass the leadership test to do so. I thought that penalises charging a little bit too much, so I've also added that leadership test caveat into shooting as well. So if you want to shoot someone on the first turn, you also have to pass that leadership test. Again, I haven't tested this one yet, so we'll see how that goes. But we found in the RTT that people enjoyed it because you start close together, and this is obviously the mission where you've got a very small gap between game 2 and game 3 in terms of a break. So it's a good one for getting stuck in to people very quickly. But I did favour shooting armies quite a lot because they were able to deploy quite far back and just shoot and try and still make the most of the distance. So just seeing if we can just balance it slightly in the combat army's favour, ever so slightly back forwards that way. So we'll see how we get on with that one.
Cool.
And then coming on to game 3. So this is the only one I've put in the pack, I think. Yes, it's the only one I put in the pack that has an objective marker in it. I've seen TOs in quite lots of different places starting to put objective markers in 40k style, having them scattered across the board and trying to claim particular points. But I've effectively based this off the command and control scenario where you have that kind of like building in the middle that you have to try and grab. Obviously, I want to make it slightly different because I don't necessarily want the building to be slap bang in the middle of every board, because once you put a big impassable piece of terrain right in the middle of the board, it can be a bit disruptive, I think, to have how the armies interact with each other, because you've got this massive lump in the middle that gets in the way a little bit. So I've reduced that to a marker rather than the building, and the marker represents anyone that knows anything about Saffron Walden. This is the first Earl of Essex, Geoffrey de Mandeville, and
I'm going to have to stop you there because that's not the first Earl of Essex.
Yes,
You've made a boo-boo. A quick Google reveals that the first Earl of Essex is Walter Devereux.
Well, I don't want to cast aspersions on the Saffron Walden tourist board, but
maybe the first Earl of Saffron Walden, they wouldn't have an Earl.
No, I'm pretty they definitely told me it was first Earl of Essex.
Yeah, Wikipedia's telling me. Who do we trust more?
Wikipedia or the Saffron Walden tourist board?
I think I
trust the Saffron Walden tourist board more.
I wouldn't, because they're wrong.
But yeah, obviously Essex, of course, for anyone that doesn't know, is a very little known province of the Empire. Mostly famous for the manufacture of a particularly bright orange dye. So you need to gather Geoffrey and finish the game close to him. I've changed the rules slightly for controlling objectives. The current objective rules, basically, if you've got a unit of unit strength 5 or whatever it is, 10 or whatever it is, if you're adjacent to the objective, it doesn't matter how many unit strength you have on either side, you control it, which obviously makes it very annoying because you just get a little skirmish unit, just runs in on the last turn and takes it off 3 blocks of infantry that have slogged it out the whole game to hold that objective, and then they lose out to one little squad of skirmishers. So I've just changed it so that it's based on the total unit strength of the units within 6 inches rather than just having a minimum cap you need to exceed. So hopefully that'll make it a little bit better to favour the infantry units that want to try and get into the middle and hold it. So again, we'll see how that goes. See whether that makes it better to hold objectives or not.
Just to go back to the first Earl, there are apparently 2 first Earls of Essex. Geoffrey and also Walter are both called the first Earl of Essex.
There we go.
However, I will say Geoffrey was 300 years earlier, so you've got me there.
I don't understand how Walter can be described as the first Earl of Essex if he was there 300 years after the first Earl of Essex.
It's literally his title. He was the father of Robert, second Earl of Essex. I'm not convinced about that. That seems Anyway, yes. Interesting. An objective marker that moves.
Yes, so I've got him D3 plus 3 inches a turn. He'll just scatter each turn, which I think is enough that he'll move across the source of the game, but not massively jump like 24 inches in one turn. So he'll go 4 to 6 inches a turn and just kind of wander around as players try and catch him. So I thought that'd be a little bit of a laugh. Again, that's something that I need to test and decide whether that's something that we can play with, or is just annoying. But we'll see how
is it? I think having it move at the start of both players' turn might be too much. That's moving 12 times. Maybe just having it move at the start of the battle round. I know there isn't a battle round in Old World, but like the start of the first player's turn, that might be the better way to do it. So that way both players know where it's going to end up at the end of turn 6, because it would suck if you went first on turn 6 and then it just scattered away from you and your opponent's like, oh, I guess I just get to...
Good point. I'll change that. I like it. I'm listening to reason, and I'll go for it.
We're meeting in the middle, because I hear it's an objective marker that moves in a random direction, and I start to froth at the mouth. My heart rate rises, but give it a go. Gonna try.
We'll try. I've seen some missions where they've got like 4 or 5 objective markers. I haven't gone that far yet.
Here's a question. If Games Workshop brought out, let's say, a General's Handbook, which many of the comments on the video of predictions I put out said, you're an idiot for saying this, you're wrong. Right, sound. If they were to do that before your event, when, like a week before the event or a few weeks before the event, and those missions had objectives, would you just change to those missions?
Probably yes. I would prefer to have a globally, in inverted commas, accepted format for these events, because, as I've said on previous videos, the idea that I would know how to devise a mission better than Games Workshop would, I think, is blowing too much smoke up my own arse.
Yeah.
I know that the missions presented in the core rulebook were not necessarily designed to be competitive missions, and therefore I feel a little bit okay with changing those around and trying to make them a little bit more interesting. But fundamentally, if Games Workshop come out and say, we've play tested 1,000 times these competitive missions and we think these work really, really well for Old World, you look at me with some skepticism there, Ed.
Games Workshop play testing
these missions, but assuming that was the pack and actually the tournament community got around that and said, you know what, these are 5 good missions, these could be quite happily used in an event system, then happy days. I'll go straight over to that. It makes my event pack shorter, it much less effort for anyone to kind of try and abuse or anything to go wrong, anything like that, or me having fucked up a mission somewhere and it just doesn't play right. That's just never a good experience, is it? So I'd be fully supportive of that. And I don't know what form this would take. Obviously 40k uses a set of cards and you dish out a primary mission, a secondary mission. That works quite well. I like that as a structure. So if they did something like that, 100% be in support of it. But again, it needs that kind of wide community adoption as well. What we've seen with 40k is that they bring these mission packs out, and every single person across basically the whole world just takes that as the missions and they run with it, and Games Workshop test them and make sure that they work, and they normally then develop a set of agreed mission formats that work for every single event, and it just takes all of the kind of subjectivity out of it.
Sure.
Which I'd be in support of.
All right.
Here we go. Game 4, the Battle for the Golden Acre. This is the flanking force one. And it's basically identical rules with one slight caveat in that I've put a minimum requirement into the flanking force as well. So what I've seen lots of people do is just kind of try and get round the flanking rules and just stick one unit of dire wolves or something like whatever, like cheap shitty wolf unit you've got, you just put in a corner and just forget and pretend the flanking rules don't exist. You then kind of wonder what's the point of having the flanking rules if that's all you're going to do. So I've put a minimum in there, 15%, which is 300 points of your army is to go flanking, and so we'll see how that goes as well. If putting a minimum amount in there, it encourages people to put a slightly more significant part of their army on the flanking force, see what it does.
What if I write a list that doesn't fit into there? So I have 2 units that are 800 points, and then I have a single unit that's like less than 300 points, and then I have 1 character that's the general. So there's no way for me to legally fit between. What if I do this deliberately?
What I'd probably do, well, if you do it deliberately,
Punch
then
me.
screw you. But what I'd probably just deal with that on a case-by-case basis. It's not a big enough event that would be such a massive problem.
I don't expect that to actually happen, because you have to deliberately run 2 massive units and then one sub 300 point unit, and then only a single character, so your character can't boost the other unit, or some combination thereof. So yeah, it's not a real concern.
Putting that much effort in to dodge game 4 of the Saffron Fantasy Slam,
gonna lose all my games just to write a list that breaks your pack. That seems reasonable to me.
But again, I mean, it comes exactly back to what we just said about what if Games Workshop release a proper mission pack. It kind of, these things where I'm trying to play around with things slightly just to address issues that have been raised with me or perceived. The idea that I can come up with these missions that fix all these problems is just not something I'm going to be able to do. So again, we'll see how this one goes and see how people play with it. And it's just trying to nudge people in a direction where they look at the flanking mission and go, well, how would I make a flanking force that actually works?
Yeah.
And actually,
this seems reasonable to me.
So yeah, and then last but not least, the plane of Le Saffron Walden. It's the last game of the weekend. Putting loads of fancy rules in. It's just people are going to be anyone that's played.
Is it bedtime yet? You ask at 12:30 in the afternoon. To be clear.
Yeah, is it the scenario special rule is it bedtime yet? Which means there's no special rules. This is just open battle as it comes. Finish off nice and easy.
Oh, that's interesting.
And go from there. I think it's the time when people are tired, and sometimes you just want to have a bit of a laugh in that final mission and not mess around with too many fancy rules. So that's where I've got to.
Interesting. I don't hate that. Obviously, Rob's events, he runs open battle for the 1st, 3rd, and 5th, and then he runs 2 missions in between. So the last mission there is always just play straight Warhammer and try and be the best general.
Yeah,
I don't hate that at all. No gimmicks. Just turn up on the day and do more Goodera.
100%.
Cool.
So I think that's basically it. FAQs, basically, really just simple stuff around tournaments. What happens if you concede? What happens about talking out games? Talking out's not a massive issue in Old World because it's so much more complicated, but just to kind of nip that in the bud, and then just guidance on how to use chess clocks if people want to use those. Again, I haven't seen anyone at any Saffron events using chess clock yet, but I know that'll probably something that potentially comes around in the future as people start to take things more seriously. So
yeah, honestly, the game plays so quickly that I'm not even sure if I'll bother until I have one terrible experience, and then I'll be like, fuck it, every game.
No, 100%. I was finding at the RTT most games are done in 2.5 hours. I've dropped the rounds from 3 hours to 2 hours 45. So still longer than that for people that are taking longer, but the majority of games, especially as obviously we're going to play slightly tighter boards because we're on 60 by 44s, so you'll be getting close to the action a bit quicker. So you should be able to mash your armies together and see who comes out on top a little bit more.
I probably wouldn't want to go any lower than that.
No,
I feel like
I don't think we need to. I think, as I say, with you saw the timings earlier, we're still able to finish in plenty of time to go for tea, and on Sunday plenty of time for people to get home. So I think I don't think we need to cut out any further. It's a downvote from Entropy. Terrible pack. No meeting engagement. No watchtower.
It basically has watchtower. Watchtower just moves, so it's watchtower
Jeffrey's running around.
Yeah. Goddamn Jeffrey! So everyone has to bring their own model Jeffrey, right?
Do you know what? I was thinking about putting a thing in that you get 100 victory points if you make a Joffrey, but I thought I'd take that out.
Make it 50 and put it back in. Problem is, then you'll have 2 people who both have one going like, oh, but I want to use the model that I put all this effort into. Cool.
There we go. There you have it.
All right, sweet. Any questions about the pack? We do have plenty of Watchtower and 8th you lost in the roll-off. Oh, I don't know about that, nor do I want to. That sounds horrendous. We have got a lot of podcast questions, but if there are any questions about the pack, do whack them in chat and we can get to those as well as we're going through. So if I just turn off that. I put a message in the podcast, close order questions chat, which is specifically in a VIP section for channel members only. There's the plug. If you want to ask questions, you can subscribe, become a member of the channel. I believe it's at Longbeard tier or above, and you are able to do those. Join the Discord, even if you're not. It's a great place to have some discussion. But yeah, we've got a load of questions.
You can have 10% off your Saffron Slam tickets as well.
That's true. That is true. That's a good thing. The games that are a bit long when you have to carefully position every unit of Glade Riders to be out of line of sight of both your opponent's dragons. That's true. That's very accurate. That is my experience, yes. So, questions. We're going to start off with a question from Pirate, who says, question for the higher-ups. Does having a membership mean I get to bully Edwin and Lewis into giving me a cursory overview of the homebrew stuff I've made? So I'm going to answer this first. I don't know what your perspective on this is. I do not look at homebrew for multiple reasons. The first is I have a fairly decent grasp on what all of the stats and rules are for the individual units. And I don't look at old edition rules where I can help it as well, because I don't want to muddle stuff in my head. But the second reason, which is aside from just accidentally confusing myself, which would happen, I think to play homebrew, you have to go into it with a level of buy-in, not to break the game. Because you're writing rules that are not officially vetted and tested, and you're going to your opponent saying, hey, I've got these rules that have been written. Are you comfortable with me playing them? And the issue with that is the way I enjoy playing Warhammer is squeezing every drop of efficiency out of a list possible. And I can't do that with homebrew, because to play homebrew, you have to do it with the agreement that it's like, there's nothing in here that is too good. Whereas if I'm playing officially written rules, I can go, cool, these are the rules, these are the things that are good, this is how I can maximize them. And I can't do that with homebrew. So I don't look at homebrew personally. How about yourself?
Well, I mean, we've just spent an hour going through homebrew missions I've come up with, so...
And I made sure to disagree with them.
Yeah, I mean, broadly, it's something that you wouldn't ever see at events, but if you want to do it at home, then crack on. I'm more than happy to look at rules and give you a thought of whether they're any good or not, but I'm not going to be able to do it with any kind of competitive or balance angle. I can just look at it and see if it looks fun. So if you're aiming for fun, then I'm fully on board.
Excellent stuff. We do have a few questions in here about cannons and hills. I'm not going to talk about that. If you want to see why, there are several hundred messages in the rules discussion thread, and I just don't want to. Honestly, I don't want to think about it. It's just let's not go there, and you can work it out yourself. I stopped caring very early on into reading those messages. Like, oh god, this is why I don't play cannons.
For clarity, at the Saffron events, you're not shooting cannons over hills, and you're not shooting them through woods either. So there you go. You've had your answer.
Fair. That's fair. Yeah. Winslow has summed it up nicely. It's no fun wringing out the efficiency if you've dampened the towel yourself. Yeah, basically. It would feel like cheating when I wrote a list that just ruined everyone's day. I plan to do that instead with official rules, and then they can't complain. Or they can. They just call me a dickhead on the internet. Perfect. Gridlock says, apart from the Ogre Blade, are there any magic weapons people are missing out on? I don't know about missing out on, but there are some that are solid. Have you got any that immediately come to mind?
The one that immediately comes to mind that I think I should be able to make use of is the Blood Drinker, which is one of the Vampire Counts one, obviously, because that's the only rules I know.
Where it only like strength plus 1 AP plus 1 or something like that?
Yeah, so this is where the issue is. The base stats of it are not amazing, but if you cause wounds you heal wounds.
Yeah.
Which it means if you want to create a character that is more combat focused but wants to be independent of your necromancer, and therefore out of range of being able to heal back up, which sometimes with your Vampire Count characters you need because they're not necessarily the most resilient of their equivalents across the meta, it would potentially give you an option to be able to take your Vampire Count and move him further away from everything else, do damage, get stuck in, but still be able to regain his wounds. Obviously, you can give the Vampire Count the ability to heal himself through Invocation, but you can't do Invocation if you're in combat. So it forces you to have to try and get yourself out of combat if you need to heal up. Whereas this basically just gives you a constant tick every turn, in theory, if you can do a wound, of regeneration. So I feel like there's a way to make that work. It is 50 points, so it's quite expensive. And just, I'm not convinced the base stats of it are good enough that you would guarantee yourself enough wounds that it'd be worth it. But to be honest, if you've got a 400-point character, even if you've got it on Abyssal Terror or something like that, and it's got 5 or 6 wounds, every wound you get back, you're effectively getting 20% of your model back. So there's arguments to be made for it if you can make it work.
Yeah, I think there are a number of ones that you can go. There are use cases for this. I played, obviously, with the Executioner's Axe on an Illusion Caster inside a unit of Cold One Knights, and that is AP -2, Killing Blow, but it's also you always wound on a 2+.
Yep.
You combo that with Illusion's Spectral Doppelganger, and then you just kill dwarves by the handful. And that was great, but it wasn't particularly great. Like, it was good, it wasn't great, I should say. Tom Carley has been playing with a Giant's Blade. I don't like the Giant's Blade. It's, I think, Strength User, AP0, Armor Bane 2 damage. So if you roll a 6, it's like a Giant's Bane. It's like an Ogre Blade, but otherwise it's worse. But he's been putting it in a unit that gives additional +1 AP, or I think giving it to a Minotaur with +1 AP, and maybe +1 Strength as well or something. So it's hitting it like Strength 6, AP -1, which is good enough. It's not amazing, but it's like, it's okay. Biting Blade's fine, but I just really like great weapons. Like, especially on elves, great weapons are so good. Yeah. So, yes, there are some, but you kind of got to work to put them in.
Definitely. And there's so many that mix with Spectral Doppelganger as well, isn't there? I think you can make most items look good if you get 2d6 free hits out of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Creekhammer says, in a tournament setting, how is the game time managed? Is it like chess, clock, or something similar? Been playing Wood Elves recently in almost all games, dragged them until the end of turn 6. Casually, this is not an issue, but when you have a set time like 3 hours, it can become an issue. Is there ever a situation like time on your side? If you are playing an army that you think is going to go to time, I would recommend playing with a chess clock. When you get more reps with them, it's definitely something that you can avoid. But you know, when you're playing an avoidance army, you're going to spend more time naturally. I haven't found any issues going to time because myself. I have played some slower opponents though, so that's, yeah. If you think you're going to be slow play on the chess clock, that's the fairest way to do it.
Yeah, 100%. And once you practice on them, they're not too difficult to use at all, really. It's just making sure you're clear about the situations that you're flipping the time backwards and forwards between you and your opponent.
Yeah.
We've obviously just been through the event pack now, but at the end of that is I've put a guide in there on how to use a chess clock, so you can check in with your tournament organizer what their position is on chess clocks. Some of them like them, some of them don't, but I personally I'm in favour. So they're the sort of thing where, exactly as you say, if you want to make sure your opponent's having the best time and you're worried about running out of time and feeling responsible for the fact that you're not playing very quickly at the moment because you're relatively new or whatever it is, I think you will do well to just explain that to your opponent and say, look, I'm relatively new, I take a long time to play this army, I don't want to unfairly use your time or restrict your ability to go on and win the game or play the game, so as long as you're happy, I'm going to play this game on the chess clock. You've got half the time, I've got half the time, I'll use my time up, and if I only play two of my own turns, that's on me, and I'll get faster as I get more experience, and then your opponent can still play their game. And that's where it's really important.
I'll let you handle this one from Gridlock. How do you know if an opponent has taken the piss time-wise, and what to do about it?
So this is really tricky because it's all wrapped up in the kind of social contract you're already in with that player. So you might find that you are having a really great game with a player, but you feel like it's taking too long. And I think in that situation, probably neither player's taking the piss. You're just chatting and you've realised you've only just played 2 turns and you're almost 2 hours in. When it gets to the point of people taking the mickey and using the clock against you, it's not something I've seen in Old World yet, and actually it's very rare even in 40k, to be honest, because the game plays so fast. But I think you'll probably get the vibe from your opponent very quickly. I think it's one of these things quite hard to describe when it's happening, but I think you'll just know because your opponent would be a bit of a knob about it. And in terms of what to do about that situation, I think this is one of the key examples, and I try and bang this drum every time I get the opportunity, just to flag to your TO that actually I think things are taking a little bit too long, and actually you can have that conversation with your opponent straight away and just say, look, I think things are taking a little bit long. Do you mind if we speed this up a bit? Or actually, we've only got an hour and a half left and we've only done one turn. Do you mind if we get a clock out now and we cut the remaining time in half? And you're just going to have to accept the fact that you've probably lost some time there, cut the remaining time in half and play the rest of the game on the clock. And again, if your opponent is trying to use the clock against you, they'll probably not react too well to that. And again, you just come straight to the TO. And I think everybody in event play needs to be comfortable with speaking to the TOs, and just sticking your hand up and asking for a bit of assistance. And ultimately, they'll help you as best they can to resolve the situation as amicably as possible. But yeah, unfortunately, you're going to find it's going to be so rare that when it happens, you might not realise for an hour and a half. And if it's the sort of thing the player hasn't done before, then there's just been a question from Jordan: what would a TO realistically do in a scenario like that?
Punch him in the mouth.
I have a quite clear code of conduct. First instance of that occurring would be a warning, just to say to the player, look, you need to speed your play up, and been noted. Let's try and be more positive as we go into the next few games. If it happens again, that's when you start getting to the position where it's a problem, which is why I come back to it being really important that you speak to your TO, because if you've had that experience in game one, it's likely game 2, game 3, game 4, that player is going to do the same thing to their future opponents. But if your TO only finds out about it in game 3, there's nothing he can have done or she could have done in the earlier games to change that. Whereas if they found out about it in game 1, because that's when you had the experience, they'd have already warned that player and said, look, not 100% sure what's going on here, but it looks like things are taking too long and you spent a long time doing your one turn. So let's try and speed it up. And actually, if game 2 it happens again, you can then say, look, I've spoken to you already today about this. Now we're starting to get into the realms of me being concerned about you as a player. This is not a one-off incident. This is you're now consistently doing this. And that's when more action can be taken. And again, I have it in the code of conduct linked to the event pack. That goes anything up to just ejection from the event. For me as a TO, I don't want players like that coming to my events. I actually had my first sportsmanship issue this weekend at the 40k event. I've never had one in 4 years of running events. I've never had issues.
What did Chris do?
Yeah, I had to warn him. But again, it comes back to the exact same thing. I didn't get told about an issue until Saturday evening. So that individual played 3 games, and that could have been a repeating issue. And did the warning on the Saturday night, and hopefully that unfortunately that player's not going to be coming back to any Saffron events in the future. So it's the sort of thing that it happened when we dealt with it. But as I say, there were 3 players that didn't have the warning in advance, so didn't have an opportunity to change that behaviour until after the first day. So it's just a message for anyone going to events. This is going to be so rare. You will play 150 games and it will never happen to you, and then it will happen once and you'll be annoyed and it'll be frustrating. But if it's a player that has a tendency to do that sort of thing, whether it is cheating, whether it is using the time inefficiently, whatever, they're going to do it on more than one occasion. So just flag it as soon as you become aware of it, and then the TO can hopefully act and make sure that doesn't happen again. That was a bit of a rambly answer, but hopefully that explains it.
No, that makes sense. That sounds about what I'd expect from it. Can a character move through the fighting rank if engaged in the front and the flank to accept a challenge? No, you cannot move if you are tied up. That's nice and easy there. And then he says, a more serious question. How would you rate the competitive of the new Empire Armies of Infamy and Grand Army? What are your predictions? I think Empire... So if we're talking, if we go S tier, you've got, Wood Elves, Bretonnia, Mortuary Cult. A tier, you've got vampire counts and that level of play.
Warriors of Chaos.
Oh, Warriors of Chaos are probably up in S tier as well. Maybe Wood Elves drop because they're quite hard to play. So at peak of play, I think Wood Elves are one of the best armies in the game, but they're very hard to play correctly. And there's a lot of play fatigue. So at 5 games at an event, people are more likely to make mistakes. I'd say Grand Army, you could probably put towards either the bottom of A or top of B. I think they can probably do really well, especially now they've got the upgrades. I think the Nuln School is probably towards the bottom of B. And then Knights, that varies. It depends. So if you're taking a version of the Empire Knights that can run Level 4 casters, middle of B. If you're taking a version that can't, bottom of B. Probably around there. But yeah, I think there's a lot of play in the new book. I think people are going to be very pleasantly surprised when they get some actual games in.
As is often the case, Edward, it's almost like internet opinions don't matter. I didn't say that.
I'd never say that. I'm already vilified enough on the internet for some reason. I do not understand why, but anyway, that's by the by. So I think that's a fair summary. Jordan says, what's the next faction or army of infamy towards the bottom of the meta / win rates that you're going to hyperfixate on next? I might start playing good stuff now, which is a little bit of a shame, but we are looking at international play, so I do need to prove that I can just be one of the best 8 players in the country, which sounds really big-headed to say, but if that's what you're going for, if you want to play on an international team, you have to confidently say, there is a reason for you to take me, and that's because I think I'm one of the best. So I might need to start move into the put up or shut up phase of my career. It's all well and good winning with Dark Elves, but what if I did it with a real faction?
Yeah. And I think there's nothing to be ashamed of on that front. I will be, however, banging the drum for shit stuff. I shall be trying to make state troops work at some point in 2025. So
you're literally doing Bretonians right now. I will still
get 2 armies for the price of 1, and then I'm going to move on to my empire.
Yeah, I'll still play fun stuff as well as just good stuff, which is a departure from how I played 40k. But it might be more, like my monthly Friday night stream games where we do, the viewers tell me what to play, and I'll play, all infantry lizardmen into Khorne demons, or this month just gone all wood, like all treeman wood elves into Shaggoths with as many axes as possible. Yeah. Something along those lines. They're really fun. I don't know that I want to play them more than once a month, but that's a good outlet for playing some different stuff and seeing some infantry and all of that jazz.
Yeah. I'm playing a game on Thursday at the club here where we've agreed that we're going to do almost full infantry lists for
cool.
accounts versus Bretonians. So,
that's so unfair. You get to bring like incredible infantry. What sort of infantry?
I'm bringing 60 skeletons and 20 grave guards, and then a load of dire wolves.
Yeah.
We are allowing some good stuff, so it's not just infantry, because I think eventually the skeletons just wear the Bretonian infantry down over time. So he's bringing 3 Pegasus Knights as well. He's bringing one of his lords is going to be on foot in the skeleton unit, and I'm putting my vampire count in the.
He's going to put a foot character in a skeleton unit.
In one of his men at arms. You know what I mean, Edward.
Yes, but I saw an opportunity to correct you.
I'm going to put a vampire count on foot, I think, somewhere in my Graveguard unit.
Yeah.
But I want to take some Blood Knights as well, because Blood Knights are cool, and he's going to take a couple of Pegasus Knights as well. So we've got some there. But I'm very looking forward to taking some photos of what that will look like with all of that infantry crashing into each other. He's a really good painter as well, so he's got a really nice looking army already. So and he's been playing around with infantry lists for Saffron Slam as well. So let's see if he can make that work. So looking forward to that.
All right, very cool. Winslow says Wood Elves are like Margaret Thatcher. They only have to play perfectly for 5 games. You don't have to get lucky for 1. Please explain. I hope you're not saying anything positive about Thatcher.
No, it's a reference to the IRA bombings of the Brighton Hotel, I think, Ed.
Oh.
So it's going to take a dark turn.
We're going to move quickly on. Pat says, if you had to put money on it, do you think Games Workshop would do point changes for Old World? I don't think they will. If I had to put money on it, I don't think they will. But we'll see. I'd be very happy to be wrong. Next question. We had Winslow. Oh, Jordan said also can it be ogres? If people want to see me play some ogres, they need to suggest that in the Pick My List channel and vote for me to play some ogres. I like ogres; they're fun, but just not ideal. They were the first army that I played properly competitively with. I did some online games when I was learning how to play well and got absolutely bodied. Great times. Winslow says, Games Workshop has released a few special characters in the old world that change up your list composition, such as Ungrim allowing more Slayers and Doomseekers. I really like these mini Army of Infamies as space for special characters, since it lets you explore a unit archetype that maybe doesn't have enough space for a dedicated list. Are there any units you'd love to see a special character themed around in the future? The first one for me, Wood Elves, like the Forest Spirits. I want to see trees good. Tree good. Tree good me, please. How about you? Tree good you?
What are we thinking? So I quite like the idea of, and they've kind of half done it with the Tomb Kings in the put Cetra on his chariot, but something around like a full chariot army. And again, they've kind of half done it again with the, is it the Nomadic War and the Orcs and Goblins, where you can take lots of chariots. I think there's some cool chariot armies in there knocking around somewhere. Whether that is based off Cetra or another Tomb King's character, I don't know. But I think there's something we could be doing around that, which would be cool. I've seen a few people looking at taking like 5 chariots or 8 chariots or 9 chariots, and I think it's look really cool. So that'll be interesting. And then some kind of, and they've kind of done it again with one of the new Empire characters, but like a proper combat infantry Empire character to go with great swords or something like that really buffs them up and also makes them like a properly hard combat unit for Empire. That would be really nice.
Some way to make them not die to shooting so they can get to combat would be cool.
Yes.
Yeah, that would be nice.
To walk forward without dying.
If only.
Or even like a combat character that goes with like halberds and things like that. This is me. I'm obviously projecting summer 2025 when I've started to try and make state troops work, and I've realised how crap they are in first person, and I desperately need some characters to help them that don't just have 2 attacks.
Yeah, that's fair. Second question from Winslow. What's a good way to handle an opponent you can see misplaying the rules for their own army? I've run into it a few times at tournaments and do my best to be polite but clear. It's awkward because you have to pause to look at multiple runes to prove it, and it might feel like you're being a stickler, especially when they're not unit rules for an army you don't play. Just exactly as you're doing. Just be polite, but, that isn't right.
Yeah.
When you correct them for the 3rd time, they might even stop making you check because you're like, there's another one, bud. Yeah.
It goes back to what we were talking about earlier. You'll get a vibe very quickly as to whether someone's just new and making lots of mistakes and not quite familiar with the rules enough yet, where actually they'll probably be really appreciative of you helping them out because they might have just played a couple of games with their mates and they've just missed stuff. Yeah. Or if they're doing it for advantage, you'll know pretty quickly, at which point, as I say, you don't need to get involved in that. Just come straight over, call the judge, just say, look, I'm not sure this rule's being played correct. Can you clarify for us? And by the time a judge has been called over 2 or 3 times, they're probably going to be like, right, okay.
I better tighten up.
Yes, let's get on top of this. And I think it's really important for new players who are thinking about going to tournaments. It's important that you try and get on top of your rules, but don't hesitate to go up to your opponent and just say, look, I'm very new. I've only played 5 games. I'm going to get stuff wrong. Very much appreciate anything that you can do to just give me a hand as we're going through the game, because actually what you'll find if you're a new player, that those experienced players will be 99.9999% of the time they'll be like, absolutely, I'll help you out, we'll get the rule book out, we'll play it through, because fundamentally that more experienced player knows they're going to win that game. As soon as someone comes up to them has only played 2 games of Old World and you're an experienced player that's played 30, 50, 60, 100 games, you're probably going to destroy them. So actually, you'll have a better game for yourself and for the new player if you just help them through the rules. So don't be afraid if you're a new player, just to be honest with people and say, I'm new to this. I don't necessarily know 100% what I'm doing. I'm just going to try my best. And again, most people, if they're reasonable, will just walk you through the game and you'll both have a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, if you're new and you're going to your first event and you're worried about not knowing the rules as well as you should, you probably know your rules better than you think you do. I had a great game against a lovely member of the channel, Exporter Champion, really lovely guy, had a great time playing against him. He'd posted on Discord that he was going to be at one of the one-day events, and I knew I was going to try and get down to some, so I was like, I'll just keep an eye out. And he said, I'll be the guy with the Canadian accent, and got paired into one of the only people I didn't recognize at the event, and I just sort of lingered for a second, heard him talking. It's like, yeah, I think I know who this is. So game 1 was into I've forgotten his name right now, which is really rude of me, but Exporter Champion. And he said this was his first tournament. And we had a bit of a conversation, just mentioned, like might get something wrong or whatever. And he was pretty tight with the rules. Obviously, some things we all get wrong. I've been corrected at tournaments as of the last tournament I went to. I can't remember what it was. It was something stupid about the direction you fall back or give ground or something along those lines. I can't remember exactly what it was, which means I'll probably get corrected again. But there's so much minutia in Old World. Nobody knows everything.
Yeah.
No, that's a lie. Some people know everything. Most of us have a good grasp, but not a perfect grasp, and that's good enough.
Yep. 100%. And it's not like when you ask a TO for some questions or whatever, it's not like I just turn up and recite the rule. I turn up with the book and we go through it together and we'll work it out together. So, yeah.
Voodoo Gaming says, new here, new to Old World, Demons Enjoyer, why only Nurgle is playable? I would say that Nurgle isn't the best way to play. The best way to play is a mixture of Tzeentch units and casters, and then also fill up your core with Khorne Furies. That's the best way to play Demons. Nurgle is... You could probably make a playable Nurgle army, but it's not the... When I try to put together the best Demons list, it's not where I'd go. The Great Unclean one's too slow, I think, as well. That doesn't help.
But if you're new, Voodoo Gaming, just
do what you want.
Have fun. What you like, get stuck in. Don't worry about what's good or not good. You'll work that out in time. So just have a good time with it, mate. That's more important than anything else.
Yes, indeed. Gridlock, which unit is the Space Marines of Old World? I have one in mind, so you go first.
The Space Marines of Old World. I mean, in my immediate... Actually, so of Old World, probably Knights of the Realm.
Okay.
If we're just talking fantasy in general, it's probably some Empire units, but Bretonnia have very much been the poster boys so far, haven't they? Along with the Tomb Kings, I guess, but the Bretonnians got their...
Bretonnia's not a bad shout, actually. So, like, Bretonnia would be, I guess, in terms of, I assume...
Oh, like a faction, yeah. So
yeah, I assume Willem's asking in terms of, like, which is the sort of, like, default faction that people gravitate towards. I think it's, Bretonnia's a good shout, or Warriors of Chaos is always super popular. They even have the fully covered pauldrons, big shields. Yeah, Warriors of Chaos, yeah. I think for me, Warriors of Chaos, but I think in Old World, Bretonnian way more of a shout than any other edition that I'm aware of.
I think if you go into any shop that sells Old World and you go up to the counter and ask how you get into it, they're probably going to direct you towards the Tomb King one or the Bretonnian one that's got the rule book in it and all that sort of stuff. So
that's
you're probably going to pick that up. And then that's really what Space Marines are in 40k. They're the army that everybody starts with because you just walk into a shop and that's what you'll get given because that's what they're just there. They're the most straightforward to play and go from that. So, yeah, that was my thought.
Orcboy Phil, slightly more serious. Haven't played a game yet. Why can't I settle on one army? Because you haven't played a game yet, Phil. I'm assuming it's a logistics reason as opposed to like indecision. So I'm not going to sit here and shame you for not being able to get a game. But as soon as you're able to get a game, and I'd recommend Warhol, especially if you haven't got the models to test the things you want to try. Have a go, find a playstyle that appeals to you, and then once you've played a couple of games with it and you know you like it, that's probably makes it a lot easier to settle down and stick to one project. Anything to add to that one, or just
that was good. Well done, mate. Crack on.
Thank you. Callum says, "Can cannons fire me at Christmas or just companies?" Haha. And then also, real question: what's the best bit of hobby/game advice you don't follow yourself? Everyone has at least one. I paint out of the bottle. Don't do that. I clean my brush with my mouth. Like the problem is because I batch paint, but I also just kind of fit it around everything else, and have for years. So this is not new behavior. I'll sit at my desk. I'll be like, oh, I could do something. I'll get a brush out, and I will paint for like 20 minutes, and then I'll be like, all right, bored now, and then I'll put it down, and not setting up a whole like wet palette and everything. That makes it a lot easier. I can't see it here. I did get given a wet palette for Christmas, so I'm going to make an honest effort at being a better, building better. Everyone in chat's just screaming at me.
It's just lost their minds that you're not putting your
paint. I do what I want. Yeah. Also, since I clean my brush with my mouth as well, like not clean it. I rinse it off, but I repoint the tip, which I think is not super uncommon. Can I get a refund? No, you can't. You're locked in here with me. It means that my models literally have not my blood, sweat, and tears, but I'm not going to say fluids. That sounds odd.
Make it stop.
What's your hobby or gaming tip that you should pass on?
Well, I don't know if it's a tip actually. All right, so what I tend to do, which I know most people don't do, is I tend to do my priming and my varnishing, my dull coating at the end. I do it all inside. You're supposed to do it in a well-ventilated area, but I find doing it outside, it goes all weird, and the English temperature is like one day it will be 10 degrees, next day it'll be 24 degrees, and you don't know what's coming. So I do most of it inside where it's consistent, which means I probably breathe in far too many dangerous fumes. But I get a slightly more consistent finish on the models.
And a hell of a high.
Start my day off with a bang.
Do I have to say, don't do drugs, kids? Is that the level we're at?
I think that's where we're at now.
There's no children that watch, so it's okay. I feel fine about that. But yeah, no, that's me too. I live on the second floor, which for Americans is the third floor, and it just means that I ain't bothering to go outside to do my spraying. I do it with the window open and like right next to the window, but yeah.
Yeah, so I'd say probably even worse for me. I do it in the basement, so I did no ventilation whatsoever.
I didn't know you had a basement.
Well, yeah,
there were some stairs that went downstairs. Actually,
that's the one. Yeah, those ones by the kitchen.
Yeah.
It has got an extractor fan in it, so I'll tend to hold the model up. I can't hold the model up in front of me, have the spray can with the extractor fan like right in front, and I'll spray like that, and it goes out. So that works for the varnish. Obviously, you can't do that with the coloured spray because you just spray everything; the whole wall would go blue. But or whatever colour you're doing.
You can do it.
I have like a cardboard shield, and it goes like it's far too much faff. But as Gwildar says in the chat, there are about 2 days a year in the UK where the humidity is correct, whereas the basement is a constant temperature and a constant humidity all through the year. It can be 40 degrees outside, but it's still 20 degrees in the basement. It can be minus 10 outside, and it's still 20 degrees in the basement. So there we are.
Excellent. I don't even want to read chat. They're just lambasting us. More me than you, but that's okay. I can take it. I'm not the hero that Old World needs. I'm the one it deserves. That sounds big-headed. I think it's meant to be the other way around. Not the one it deserves, the one it needs. Nope, both of those sound bad. We're going to move on. Old Boy Phil.
Never regretted a question more.
Old Boy Phil, why don't tourneys seem to allow mercenaries? A lot of them do. TSN does. Do you allow mercenaries, Lewis?
Yeah, just not allies.
Yeah, a lot of them do. But also, stop. Pick one army. Pick one army and make an army out of it. Now that you've acknowledged weakness, I'm going to be on your case until you play a game and get an army fully built and painted. That's my goal for 2025. My New Year's resolution is to get Orc Boy Phil to build and paint an army. Ed looks like Batman after using black primer indoors. Make it stop. That's not accurate. I point the can away from me. That's not right. I don't huff it.
Where is she? Oh,
Yeah.
that really hurt.
I'm not going to do the Batman voice. I think I can do quite a good Bane. Gollum's the good impression that I can do, but we're really sort of going off piece there. It's a close order podcast, and we went almost an entire stream without someone mentioning Lord of the Rings. It's normally chat, but no one was doing it, so I had to pull that one in. Perfect. I think that about wraps it up. I think we've answered all the questions. Yeah, I don't think there's anything important being asked in chat. Voodoo said probably missed something because Magic felt so weak. Feel free to, if you're not in the Discord, join the Discord down below, Voodoo. Post in the Chaos Demons section and tag me, and I will have a quick look at the list you're playing. The stuff that's good is pretty decent for Demons, and the stuff that's bad is a little bit underwhelming. But you need to... Demons have less wiggle room, I think, in terms of their list building. Obviously, we do encourage people to play the things they like, but Demons have a little bit less wiggle room because they're a bit less of a strong book. Like Bretonians can kind of do, you can take more. Vampire Counts is a good example. Like all of the stuff in there is pretty good. The floor is higher than the ceiling. All righty then. Any last thoughts for you, sir?
No, because you're going to cut me off.
No, I'm not, because there is one last thing that I want to do. I'm going to say, if you are interested in more streaming, obviously I am currently working from home. I'm doing some freelance work, some building of models. And I will be streaming on Wednesdays at 10 a.m. GMT. In about 30 minutes or so, I will post, a link to the video that will go up. And I'm going to test some things. I'm going to do some different stuff. We're going to have some fun with it. There's a limit to how much Warhammer you can talk about in a week before you start to feel like you're repeating yourself. So I don't want to just do the same sort of stuff. There is a game called Get to Work. There is a game called Get to Work, which is a rage game. For those of you who are unaware, a rage game is where you've got to try and climb, and then it's deliberately hard, and you fall down, and you get very annoyed. I've seen streamers play those. It looks like a fun thing to subject myself to. And it's literally called Get to Work. The whole premise of it is finding a job. That's what I'm going to be doing for at least 2 hours tomorrow at 10 a.m. GMT. So going to give that a go. I don't know if I'll be playing more games on stream or if I'll be doing other stuff. Obviously, I put the poll up. There was some interest in various bits and pieces. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. But if you're interested to see me lose my goddamn mind, 10 a.m. tomorrow, I will be quite possibly screaming into the void because I've never played anything like that, so I have no idea what my coordination is like. And since I've never done it before, I assume I'm probably terrible at it. So I'm not making any promises about playing until I reach the end because I would be playing for a long time and it might cut into the Friday stream. I might have to just stream constantly, which sounds terrible. So Edward's never even let go at all. An elaborate ad for this stream. Curses, Winslow. You've seen right through me. This is why you're named after a butler, because you are my... no. What was Sherlock Holmes's number 2 called? I was going to say Wilson, but it's not, is it?
Why can't
I think?
What? Watson.
There we go. All right. I think that's about it. Say goodbye.